Okay, let's keep rocking and let's keep rolling. We've seen what these alarms can do. We know that they're great. Now let's get rid of them. Let's jump back in, and remember I told you that there was a scale function block in here, right? Well, here it is, and we've got an input for an analog signal coming in. We've got an output for an analog signal going out. And we click on our preferences, we can see what all we've got in here. We've got our in raw max, so this would be our input scaling. We would say we've got a PID signal coming in. We're going to say that goes from 0 to, well, actually that's the maximum, so that would be 16,383. And then our in raw min would be 0. So we've got our input scaling. And then we've got our NEU max and min. So that's our engineering units. Basically, that's talking about our scaled values. So let's say we're going to scale that from 0 to 100%. Well, here's our max, so we'll go ahead and set that as 100. We would set our min as 0. And then we've got actually in here, we can put some alarms in here. And there's different things that we can do with this. But if we just set it up like that, already we're good. So let's go ahead and hit apply, hit OK. And now if we bring in a 0 to 16,383 from one of our analog inputs, and we want to represent that as 0 to 100, just like that, we've got a function block that's going to handle it for us. Very, very, very simple, very, very cool. Something moving on. We've got under select, we've got this select block. What this does is, let's pretend that we've got two different tanks and we want to be able to toggle between the level of those two tanks. Well, we've got an input signal coming in from tank 1's level sensor. We've got another input coming in from tank 2's level sensor. And here we've got this selector. That's for a Boolean coming in, which is actually going to select between which one of these inputs we want to look at. And whichever one we decide, that's what's going to come out of the output. So at any time down the road, if we've got future process developed out over here, which is only going to be considering one single tank at a time, we can set this block up and use it to toggle back and forth which one we're looking at. And you're always going to have it coming out of the same place. So that makes things easy. Coming back up here, we can go into bit, and look what we've got. We've got one shot rising and we've got one shot falling. So we set that up, and we've got an input Boolean coming in, which would be typically a push button. And when the operator pushes a button, his finger's on that for longer than one scan. These things scan pretty quick, so when he's holding that button down, it happens maybe 100 scans. But what comes out is just a single scan momentary signal. And right there we know we use one shots all the time when we're programming ladders. No problem, they're right here for us. Timers and counters. If we need a timer, I don't even have to tell you how to configure this. You've got your pre, which is what your timer is going to count up to. You've got your input signal coming in to enable the timer and make it start counting. You've even got another Boolean input down here in case you want to reset your timer at any time. You've got your accumulated value, and then you've got your done signal, a Boolean out, telling you that this thing is already timed down. We've also got retentive timers. So if we're creating some kind of, hour meter and we don't want to lose any of our time whenever we're shut down, we can do that right here as well. And of course, we've got counters. And all of these things have, pretty healthy, configuration as far as what we want to show on the outside, what we actually want to use. So, really, if you took the time and explored all of these function blocks, you'll be amazed at how much programming you could do with just really a few blocks. I mean, these things are pretty impressive. We've got in comparison. We always use our equal tos. we've got our equal to right here limit. If we want to test and make sure that one value is between two others, if I could get this thing selected and pull it out of the way, it just does not want to move for me, does it? Yeah, here we go. We pull in our test value right here. We've got a low limit and a high limit that we want to test and make sure it's between. And assuming that it is, here's our output that we can shoot out from there. And in terms of configuration, we can also determine whether or not we want to enable this block and, all kinds of good stuff. So again, really, really powerful stuff. And I won't go through here, but we can check for inequality. We can check less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Let's move on. We've got our basic math blocks, and we can negate something, get the absolute value of it. We can get square roots. We also have an advanced math tab if we want to get natural logs, logarithms, things like that. Math conversions. So if we want to go into degrees or radians, this is really built to do a lot of different cool stuff. But I'm not going to go through everything. We've got, trigonometry and program controls. What we've really seen here is enough to not necessarily program a whole system and every system we ever encounter in function blocks. But this, you can already, see, hey, there's not much I couldn't do with just the blocks and the wires and the references that I've already seen. And that's true. You can really put together a system using these. And while it's running, you've got a nice, clean graphical interface that you can look at inside of your program, and directly what's happening. So let's go ahead and break for now. And when we come back, we're actually going to start programming something for our tank model. And I'm also going to use that kind of as an instructional piece, because we're going to also be creating our own function block. And when you see how to create your own function blocks and imagine all the things you can do with them, seriously, you're going to flip, because that's where the real power in function block diagram programming is. It's not just in using the canned functions that they give you right off the shelf. It's being able to create and reuse your own function blocks. And, that's when you can really, really, really just expedite the crap out of your programming. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next.